Oh, Denise would like you all to introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Troy Damsey. Worked for the city for 15 years.
As captain of police.
Yeah, well, I saw it in the paper. I thought, I think I know. Okay, I haven't met you formally, so nice to meet you.
This is in the basement of the.
I saw the article on you as well. So I learned all my information. I remember you.
She's a lead member.
And a poll worker.
Oh, great. And Cal?
Cal, I was on the town also.
He was a veterinarian.
Veterinarian,
Okay.
Oh, you were a
Thank you.
veterinarian? We didn't know that, Cal.
In Ripon and Berlin, right?
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we might as well go ahead and begin because it is 7. So, welcome to the League of Women Voters of the Ripon area, How to Run for Public Office. Thank you to our panelists, Naomi Miller, the Ripon City Clerk, Denise Martinez, Ripon School Board, and we have our special guest, retired State Senator Luther Olsen, who's run for all sorts of things. Thank you all for running and holding public office. We have 3 panelists. I am pinch hitting because I'm supposed to be on a plane to Ireland right now, and that didn't work out. So, and Preston Benton was supposed to be our facilitator, but he was just elected to the Student Senate at Ripon College, and he did not want to miss his first Student Senate meeting. So he's run for office too. We're each going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll begin with Denise, and we'll talk about how many terms we've served, why we ran for office, and if you have questions, just ask. Naomi will round up the evening with the nuts and bolts, like financing and paperwork and anything else that she feels is appropriate. So those things I think those things might be the most difficult to understand. Before we begin the program, I'd like to encourage everyone to consider running for office. I think we have a lack of people interested in public service and running for office, and it's always nice to have a choice of candidates. And it's not an easy decision to make to run, but it's very much appreciated. And if you have not registered to do so, if you need to request an absentee ballot, you may do so at myvote.wi.gov. I want to thank Riley Eisnagel and his team for their dedication to bring this information to the Ripon channels. This program is being taped and will replay on the Ripon YouTube channel. For those of you considering running for office, Envision Fond du Lac is hosting a Public Office Preparation 101 on Wednesday, November 5th and Wednesday, November 12th. It is a limited 20-person class, 6 hours total. The cost may be found on the Envision Fond du Lac website. Folks attending this program will be offered a discount. So we will begin. Naomi, you want to introduce yourself and
Sure.
We'll go.
Sure. I am Naomi Miller and the city clerk for the city of Ripon.
I'm Ellen Sorensen, and I am on the city council in my first term, and I'm the president of the city council.
Denise Martinez. I've lived in Ripon most of my adult life. I ran for school board and was elected, I believe, in 2008. I should have looked that up. But I ran one term, which is a 3-year term. And then I was elected for a 1-year term 3 years ago, and then was reelected for this 3 terms. So I've been on the board about 6 years now.
I'm Luther Olsen. Happy to announce I'm nothing. I'm just a citizen like the rest of you, but I do have a storied past. I was a school board member in Berlin for 21 years, the state assembly for 10, and the state senate for 16.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was.
I was going to tell this later, but I'll tell you right away.
Okay, go ahead.
I thought, I wonder how many times I had my name on the ballot. And So I started it. I'm up tonight just before I came. When I ran for the school board in Berlin, there was a 6-way primary. So one election was a primary. And then it's a 3-year term. So I was 21 years. So I was 7 elections there. Then when I went to the assembly, it was another 5 or 6-way primary. And so there's one. And then being there 10 years, every 2 years is the election. So there's 6 elections in that one.
I remember when there was a primary for that because
Right.
the League of Women Vote, how many candidates?
There were
were
6. 6 of
Six,
us.
and we
Yeah.
held a forum here.
Yep. And then I was in the Senate for 16 years and 2 primaries there, 4 generals, and 1 recall. So I added them all up. 21 elections. And I'm thinking, what in the world was I thinking? But so I come with it from quite a bit of experience from the local and then statewide, or not statewide, but assembly-wide and Senate-wide.
Okay, Denise, I want to talk a little bit about why you ran for office, and then we'll get into Luther's problems with running for office because he must like it.
Initially, I was asked to run. So I was approached by more than one person, a friend and an acquaintance. This was for the school board. I had been on the United Way board and I've served on other boards. And so it was, just probably people that thought I might do an okay job. So initially I was asked, and I wanted to, and this was before I was elected, before I ran, but I had children in the school district. I had 3 children. And at the time, I didn't want to have an agenda of my own to run for school board because as a school board member, I feel we serve the public. We have constituents and staff, and that if I brought my own agenda, I had already brought my own agenda several times to the school board because I had a daughter with special
I
needs.
remember.
So-
we did a thing one time.
We did.
We did a thing one time.
So it was really to, and at that point I was being a parent, obviously, and just to try to make services more accessible or whatever it was. It was just things that I would go to the school board and they were very receptive. Some changes were even done. So it was a good experience to approach the school board. And so when I was approached again, all my children had graduated. I was in a different space with my career, and I was interested. I've always been a student or an educator my whole life almost. So I was interested, and I think I was inquisitive, and that leads to wanting more knowledge, I think, and then wanting more connections to make that knowledge work, I guess. And so that's why I ran initially. So I served 1 term, and then there were things, I was in a PhD program or EDD program, and there were a lot of things going on in my life. I had my first grandchild who was born from my daughter with special needs, who's doing very well. But I just felt I couldn't spare any more time at that point. So when the opportunity came up again and I was approached by a couple people, I thought, well, now it's time to go back. I really did miss it. I enjoyed the school board immensely. So it wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just that I didn't feel I could be as effective in doing that with all the other things on my plate. So then I ran again and I thoroughly enjoy it. And so the second time was really just to keep going in gaining the knowledge and sharing what I knew of being an educator, being a student. I felt it was a good fit for me and the community and the school.
Thank you. Luther, can you explain why you ran for school board, and then how do you make the jump from school board at a local position to the state assembly?
Yeah, I can do that, but I really want to get into some things that if you're thinking about running for office, here's
you do
a
you,
checklist
Luther.
of what you need to
Okay.
be prepared and think about. I had just gotten out of college and working in our family business in Orville, and Berlin wanted to build a new high school. And there was a bunch of our customers that said, "Listen, we don't think they need a new high school. So we need you to get on the school board and sort of stop that," which is great. And so I get on the school board and you learn stuff and you learn, maybe we need one, but I can't remember. I think we either didn't do it or we lost. No, I think what we did is we built some additions. And then, being on there 21 years, we finally came to the point where we needed to build a new high school. And so we had some of the same guys that talked me into running came to one of our informational meetings and looked around, toured the school, and they came up to me and the superintendent at that time and said, we're going to support you because you took care of what you had. You didn't let it fall apart and then claim, oh, the school's falling apart, we need a new one. You took care of what you had, and things have changed, technology, wiring, all this kind of stuff. And so it passed big time. But anyway, I want to get into just some pointers and things that you need to think about if you're going to run for office. And local is nonpartisan, and then statewide or national is partisan. And the first 5 I have is pretty much applies to both of them. But the first thing you got to think about is, why do you want to run for office? What do you want to do? If you can't figure that out in your head, don't even start. The second thing is you have to make sure you have the time to run, because in Senate or Assembly, it takes a lot of time. School board, not so much, but still you need to be committed to do that. You need the support of your family or in whatever, because it's time consuming. It's going to take, those meetings are going to take time away from your family and things like that. Then you need to understand what's going to be required of you when you win, like going to meetings at night. I remember many times in the summer, it was a beautiful Tuesday night, and I'd have to get in the car, and I lived in Orland, and drive to Berlin and go to a school board meeting for 3 or 4 hours. Well, hopefully not 4. But it's a time commitment. You got to study, you got to do stuff. And the fifth one on this part, and all of them, is you need to be able to clearly articulate what your goals are if you get elected and why people should vote for you. Because if you can't tell people why they should vote for you, then you probably shouldn't be on the ballot. And you can't go and have a half an hour dissertation. You got to be able to, as we call it, elevator speeches, where it's short, concise, and to the point. So that's sort of the basic things on both of them, and mostly nonpartisan. Then I want to get into a little bit of the partisan positions, because that's the interesting part. You have to make sure, again, you have time commitment to run, because it takes a lot of time. The second one is, and this is even bigger than the first one, you have to have support of your family. Because if you're in a partisan race, they get pretty ugly. And sometimes really, really ugly.
Yeah.
And if your family cannot take their spouse or husband being totally lied about and ripped apart, then you better reconsider, because it gets pretty tough. Some races do, some races don't. But it all depends on what's going on in that deal. The next one is, you better have the ability to ask for money to finance your campaign. You've got to be able to ask people, I need, and have fundraisers and make phone calls and stuff saying, hey, I need $100, I need $500, I need $1,000, whatever the limits are for your race, because in those spots, campaigns are very expensive. when I got recalled, the total between my opponent and myself was $7.2 million for just a stupid.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I told the guy, just give me half of that money and I'll go right off into the sunset and you'll never hear from me again. But they said, oh, no, you can't be doing that. So, of course, I didn't raise it all. I didn't raise nearly any of it, but that's the kind of money that it takes. You need to be able to go up to a door, knock on it, and talk about yourself and why people should vote for you and be able to ask questions. If you're shy, this ain't for you, because you've got to be able to articulate why they should vote for you, answer their questions if they have to the best of your ability, and not everybody's going to love you. So you're going to get some pushback pretty hard, but you got to be able to take that with a grain of salt and take it to heart. I think one of the things for people who are running for like the Assembly or the Senate or even school board is be involved in the community. When guys say, I want to run for the Assembly, I said, well, why don't you get on the city council or the school board or get some experience on local government? 2 reasons. You're learning something, and also people see you in action. You get name recognition. And so when you come up on the ballot, they say, oh, yeah, I remember Luther. He was on the school board forever. And didn't always like what he did, but I know he was a decent guy, so they vote for you. So you need name recognition. And I think that you get that through a lot of different ways. You need to have a well thought out answer to tough questions that you're going to get. Not everybody is going to agree with your positions on bills, but I find that even if they don't agree with your vote or how you're going to vote, if you can articulate it well and it makes sense to you and you can articulate it, they may say, well, I don't agree with you, but I respect you that you came up with a well thought out reason. The worst thing that you could do is say, well, I really don't know why you voted for that. They'll look at you and say, what are you doing there? That's not what we elected you to do. We want you to think about stuff. We're not always going to agree with you, and you got to know that. But you got to be able to, when they walk away, said, I don't really agree with his vote, but I can appreciate that he did some research and the conclusion he came to. Another one is you need to go to every event that you possibly can to meet people and be seen. You just can't stay at home and do nothing. And some of my former colleagues who are in Congress now or go to everything. In fact, that's sort of sometimes how they win is you get name recognition. I remember Ray Gunderheim was a representative in Oshkosh, and he'd go to doors and he'd shake their hand and says, you've met me, now vote for me. And unfortunately, it was sort of true because if they met you, you did doors, they had a one-on-one thing, they're more likely to vote for you than somebody they never met. The next one is be prepared to handle and answer negative or embarrassing things about your past. None of us are saints, and there's such a thing called opposition research, where your opponent, and maybe somebody will do opposition research on the candidate and see if they can find something negative about you. I'll give you 2 examples. When I was running against, I think it was my second to the last, maybe it was my last race for the Senate, they did some negative research on me. And what it was is, I'll tell you this story. John Nagrin, who was the co-chair of Joint Finance, wanted to go to King to visit King in Wapaka County, which is my district. And his office says, checked and said, does Luther want to go with me? And we looked at my calendar and I said, yeah, I'll go. You know, I get to King a lot. I don't run it, but I represent them. And this is when everything was going to pieces up there. And so it's a beautiful day, so I'm on my motorcycle riding, and I was at Poisippi, I get a call because I have phone on my cycle. And they said, oh, John can't go today. Well, oh, great. Okay, well, it was a great ride. So I turned around and went back home. Well, then he rescheduled it. And he rescheduled it for a day that I had a previous commitment. And I don't know if you remember this or not. Hopefully not. But I was asked months before that to go to the Lodi Fair in Lodi, Wisconsin, and judge a pie contest for kids. And I knew the person that asked me, and they asked me way ahead of time. And this thing in King wasn't really for me. I was just sort of riding along. And so I went. No big deal. Well, then things were falling apart in King, and the Democrats asked for open records request on anything we had in our records dealing with King, Wapaka, Chain of Lakes, King Veterans Home, whatever. Well, unfortunately, they found an email that my staff had written, John Nagrin's staff, and says, oh, Luther can't go to King today or next week or whatever because he's got to go to Lodi to judge this pie contest. Oh my God. So they went nuts and they said, King's falling apart and Luther would go, and they call it go to a pie eating contest, which it wasn't. And they made a whole bunch of the campaign about this. And it was like, yeah, okay, I understand how that was. The most interesting thing is, though, when we went and had to look at that stuff, we found a letter from my opponent who had written me about one of his buddies who worked at King, and he embezzled money from the residents' activity fund. And he got himself in trouble. And my opponent wrote a letter to me and other people saying, go light on this guy. He was a good guy and he shouldn't, be punished. Well, my staff says, that's interesting. So they couldn't really do anything, but they sort of let it be known to my side. Why don't you ask us for open records request on King and this guy? Well, of course, we had to give it to him. And all hell broke loose because I didn't use it, but they use it against him. It's like, what kind of a shyster are you? You're helping this guy who stole money from old veterans and you want to get him off. Well, that didn't go over well. But that's the kind of stuff you deal with. So you got to be prepared for that, unfortunately. And my next one is really just, you got to be able to handle the lies and have thick skins about it. The next one is you got to be able to raise money. And let me say that again. You got to be able to raise money. You got to be able to talk to people and convince them that you need their support because these elections are very expensive. I know the press always gets cranked up about all the money in politics, but who gets all the money in politics? The press, the TV, the newspapers, the radio stations. They're the guys who are making money. I remember I had to do an interview in Madison during the recall, and I was talking to the receptionist out there, and she said, because my district is Green Bay, parts of Milwaukee, radio, and Madison. And they said, it's just like Christmas here. We are making so much money. The only thing we're scared about is we have regular people who buy ads, and we're getting so much money from the politicians and supporters that we sort of have to push them aside a little bit for this period so we can rake in all this money while it's hot. So It's very, very expensive. The last thing I'll say is you have to remember people are hiring you to represent them, the school board, in the Capitol, in Washington or Madison, and they want to trust you. They want to trust you that you won't lie to them, that you keep your word, and to a point, they want to be proud of you. If they're going to vote for you, they want to be proud of you. The worst thing that can happen is somebody says, geez, I voted for you, but you sure let me down. I'm not happy with you. That is not what you want. But those are some of the things that I have gleaned over these years that are important if you're running for partisan office. And when I was on the school board for 21 years. When I ran for the assembly, I didn't even know what partisan politics were. And I soon found out it's pretty ugly. And so one of the things I'll tell you is when I was on the school board, everybody had the school district at best of heart. We may disagreed on how we should do things for kids, but nobody was out to get somebody that I disagree with unelected. Unfortunately, in partisan politics, both sides, their goal, and they do things to make sure at the next election, the person or the people in the other party get removed from office through the election so that your party can win because whoever has the most seats runs the show. So that's really a little difference between partisan and nonpartisan. But the biggest thing is you have to make sure that you represent yourself well in everything you do and be able to go with the punches when the negative stuff comes, and it will. That was probably more than you wanted to hear.
No, I think that's great. Did anybody have any questions at all right now? Okay. I am the newbie here. I am in my first term on city council. I had never wanted to run for office. I have a degree in politics and government, which is now political science from Ripon College, but I went into government administration, worked at county levels, and I moved back to Ripon. My son had been in a train derailment, and my daughter-in-law needed help caring for him. And I always wanted to come back to Ripon, so I came back, and I love Ripon. And the issue of the dispatch center came up. I see Troy giggling. And having worked in Fond du Lac County, I knew that the people in Ripon were paying basically twice the taxes. You're paying the county tax for the PSAP, and you're paying taxes here to run a dispatch center out of your police department. And I knew that given the BOCA thing in Ripon, that the city could not cash flow. I estimated $16 million for technology, upgrading the technology, because Ripon was a beta site. And I knew that Ripon could not cash flow that over a 10-year period of time. And nor do you want to borrow money for something that's going to be obsolete in 5 years. So I kept emailing city council members, and I wasn't getting any feedback. So then I started targeting specific city council members who I thought might understand what I was saying. And one of the city council members began asking the correct questions to administration, asking to see the numbers, run what it would cost to do it on an operating basis or on a borrowing basis. And that was kind of a kerfluffle there for a while. And at that point, I began to realize that sometimes elected officials don't understand how government funds itself. And I think you probably find that at the school board too, because that's quasi-governmental. Mm-hmm. And so at the local level, we're very dependent upon income levy, property tax. But there are also other revenue streams that can be leveraged. And that is the reason that I ran for office, because I understood the funding and I thought I could be helpful with leveraging a lot of the different resource of financial streaming, like from the state or from the feds, and grant writing. And we were very fortunate when I came on the board that Adam Sontag had been hired as the city administrator, because he understands those things and he can come forward to the council and give them information that allows us to make an informed choice. And it's not just one option, it's several options. So I'm very serious about being a steward of the taxpayers' money and making sure that we are providing a good quality of life here in Ripon. And I think the two of you feel the same way about when you were at the local level.
For sure.
So that's why I ran for office. If there are no questions, we'll let Naomi start talking about nuts and bolts.
Can I just add a couple things?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think though, even though it's a local school board and we're nonpartisan, there are schools that are partisan.
Getting
So,
Mhm.
I mean, and run, based on lobbying and things like that. Fortunately, we are not one of those schools, but one of the things that's very similar to any office you run for is that you need to know what you're doing, what are your goals, like Luther said, because you will get asked certain questions. The public is not always aware of all the nuts and bolts of the operational side of a school, in my case. And so it's important to know the different funding streams or the reasons why we were cut back on money, why we had to make decisions where people had to be let go or their jobs changed or something like that. So it's important to keep your eye on that and to understand that. But probably the biggest thing that I might hear about as a school board is questions that are related to why something happened, but not knowing all the intricacies. So as a school board, we are very transparent about that. So people can get information either from the websites, the school, the district websites. Everything that's made public is made public. So if you need anything, there's avenues to get the information. So part of what we do is navigate the questions, get the people to the right source to get the answer first, because there's a methodology to getting the right information. And also it's not, it's a paid position, but it's not a highly paid position.
No.
So if anybody is thinking of really, gaining a
You're not
lot of
gonna get
income,
rich.
you're not going to. So you get paid per committee meeting, whether it's a board meeting. We have work teams also and committees on the school board. So we have a community engagement, finance. I'm on the policy committee. And what's the fourth one? We just have them because we had done away with them for a few years, and now we brought them back. Curriculum instruction. So we attend those. We're on no more than 2 of those committees. So there is outside committee work or meetings in addition to the school board meetings themselves, which is once a month. So those are all just to keep yourself if you run, and I would certainly encourage you to start, running, whether it's city council or the school board, and also talk to people like me, talk to others who might be on the boards to get a little more information and to help you make the decision that you're hopefully making.
I want to piggyback on that. The school board members are at-large members. City council, we have districts. We have 4 districts. I'm District 1, and I serve with John Split. And it's a 4-year term. It's nonpartisan, and we have meetings twice a month, and then we do have committee work. I'm on the fire district, and that's a lot. But we get a certain dollar amount every month, and we don't get anything extra for meetings outside of those 2 meetings a month. So it's for us, it's different because it's districts. I often talk about the fact that I would like to see at-large positions, but that gets shut down. So
Maybe someday.
maybe someday. Okay, Naomi.
All right. Well, I get the fun, boring part. I get to talk about paperwork, which we all dearly love is paperwork. I do have handouts though up here that you're welcome to get. You can also stop into the clerk's office. I'll gladly share any sort of information with you. Then I do have. Would you guys like to see what I'm talking about here? That might help a little bit. So what I've got here is I've got.
Do you want me to go hand those out to people?
Yeah, you're welcome to. So we have types of elections. We have a listing here. I've kind of made a little bit of a cheat sheet to give you the different types of elections when they actually happen over the course of years. Some are in even years. It's all specified and broke down for you. There's another page that actually tells you the type of office, the type of candidate to run in that office, who the filing officer would be, such as if they come to me, or if they go to the county, or if it's a school district, or if it's a state position, just depending on what it is, and then the different types of what needs to be filed. So it's kind of a little bit of a quick, easy guide for you. I can get definitely more into detail if there's something that you want to know about. We can dive into this and we can look and see what more information you need on it. I also have, oh, there it is, the elections filing and voting deadline timeline. So I tried to make up something that makes it a little bit easier, even though it might look a little cumbersome at first. I promise you it's not. But it tells you about the filing for when a candidate is filing and when it is due, and any sort of notes or anything that might actually go along with it. So it's kind of helping you a little bit here, keeping you on the right road as far as what you need to do, when you need to do it, so on and so forth. There's a lot more information on each and every line, but there's no way I can make a cheat sheet that's going to cover every single thing. So it's just a quick little guide to help you through it. But we can definitely, I'm always available that you can talk to me, call me, come visit me, whatever it is, if you have any questions. I also have a booklet here, and this comes through the Wisconsin Election Commission. And this is the candidate ballot procedure. This is basically your nomination papers. And this is showing you, just walking you through the different, how many signatures are required if you're running for state offices, for our current local judge.
And isn't that's based on the number of people who voted in the last election for that position? And is it a percentage of those
Yes.
people?
Mhm.
What, is it a
No.
different percentage for every office, or?
I believe that's on page 4.
Because I think I needed 25 for my district, but how many did you
I thought it
need?
was just,
I think
well,
it's
I
a
needed 200, I needed 200 or 400.
But you
But it's
ran for-
always the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
just
But,
say yours, it's
but
a
school board,
straight
you didn't need
number.
any, did you?
No.
Oh, you didn't have to?
No, just
Oh.
a declaration of candidacy.
Mm.
Oh, well, that's
One of the
nice.
things you gotta remember though is the deadlines or dates she's talking about, you better abide
You
by
have
it.
to.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you miss it, you're gone. I
Yep.
mean, there's people that
We're very
handed their
strict.
nomination papers 2 minutes late and it's like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're done.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. I was trying to look in here. I know I've got it in here
On page
somewhere.
4, you said?
Oh, no, that was for the state offices.
Oh, okay.
And same for if you do not decide to run again, if you've been.
Do you have to file
participant.
papers of
Yes.
non-candidacy?
Yes.
So you do that for school board
Yes.
too?
Yeah, in fact, if you don't, and then don't hand them in, they extend the period where people can decide to run.
Right.
Because, and what happened, there was a guy in the assembly in Milwaukee who never handed in his nomination papers. And right at the last day, he said, I'm not running again. But guess what? His cousin had nomination papers and figured it all out. And so he was the only guy on the ballot. He said, well, that's not fair. So now if you decide not to run, you gotta do it so many days before it's the deadline, or if you don't, they extend it so that it's fair, so that you can't sort of
Sneak
weasel.
in?
Somebody can't sneak in.
Oh,
That's
Good to
usually
know.
publicized for almost every position.
Yeah.
You know, it's publicized so that you are reminded many times.
okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, you go right ahead. Well, and this is all good information. This is what people need to know and from your guys' experience too. That always helps when you can actually relate to someone. Requirements and deadlines, as you stated, are very strict and they are not kidding. So if it says 5 o'clock, they mean 5 o'clock. Not
The door is
5:01.
locked.
It is locked at 5 o'clock. So no matter what the sob story is, they're very, very strict on it. So that is something sometimes that's hard for people to understand. But that is the way it is. Always check with your local, whether it be a county position, a local position with someone like me, state position. You can always check with the clerk that is in charge of all this and see what the deadline is, what the timing is. You can go and ask somebody. You don't have to do the searching for it. Everything is readily available online too. Everything is.
We have nonpartisan positions coming up
Yes.
in the
Mhm.
spring. School board,
Yes.
city council,
Mayor.
mayor.
Mhm.
And so when does the window for taking out papers open?
The taking out papers is going to open the beginning of December. And they're going to be due, I believe, the first Monday that's right after January.
First,
First
Mhm.
Monday in
Yeah.
January?
Mhm.
Okay.
That everything will be due. And like for our council, I'll get everything around, pass it out to our council. I try to get them so that they know what to do and get the paperwork. I try to take care of them because I know they're running. If somebody comes into the office and they want to run for one of the positions, I will walk them personally through and let them know this is what you need to file and when. And they do encourage us, the Wisconsin Election Commission, to kind of go through the paperwork with them, kind of walk them through it to make sure everything is done correctly and there's no issues down the road.
Now, but the school board people don't work through you?
No,
No.
they are going to go to, go ahead.
The superintendent
Yes.
or
Clerk.
Jonah or the clerk.
Mhm.
So, and we know well ahead, and we try to publicize it so people in the community who aren't on the school board also know.
Yes.
So the local papers, social
I think
media.
you take out an
I
ad, or
think-
the school does.
I think it's in the paper. I think it's on
We have
the,
to put it in the paper, don't we?
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's state law that you have to put that
Yeah,
stuff
you have
in
to
the paper.
advertise. Yeah.
The seats that are up.
We also, I don't know if this is going to confuse things, because I was very confused by this as you helped me with it, and then I talked to Lisa Freiberg. We have a special election coming up.
We do.
And as a 35-year member of the League of Women Voters, this one really threw me for a
Did you
loop,
win, didn't it? Yeah.
because the municipal judge retired like midterm,
Yes.
and then so a special election has to be called.
Yes.
But there's 23 municipalities involved in this.
Correct.
So a candidate has to go out and get signatures, doesn't have to get them from all 23, but Luther's recommendation is to go to all the events you can within that district. And then we have to have a special election on November 4th, which is typically a partisan
Correct.
election, but this is a nonpartisan office.
Correct.
This makes my brain hurt.
Well, I can tell you a few other people, their brains hurt from it
Yes.
too.
And
my
that,
brain hurts listening to
and
it.
that's an important one to vote in, because nobody's gonna vote in
It's
this.
expensive.
Well, and nobody's gonna turn out, so it's not gonna take many votes to win.
I'll go. I'll go.
Well, good. There's one.
Yeah, one.
Two.
It is important, just like, and I'm gonna steal a little bit from you, Troy, if I may. But I know that Troy has been going to the different council meetings in the different communities, introducing himself, trying to take an opportunity just so that they all get to know him, he can get to know them, ask him any questions they want to, and try and just get his name out there and get to know everyone. He's been doing that just for the council meetings so far.
Yeah, and some DFW meetings,
Okay, VFW.
And
Mhm.
a lot.
Outstanding. Yes.
But this covers municipalities in Green Lake County, Fond du Lac County, Sheboygan County,
Mhm.
and Dodge or Winnebago. No, just those. Well, that's enough.
Yes, it
And
is.
the reason why that's important to do is there's some conscientious people who want to vote all the time. They don't know who to vote for.
Yeah.
And so what they'll do, and I had people call me and say, Luther, I don't know this candidate. Who do you think I should vote for? And a lot of times it's the town board or the city council that they'll call and say, did you meet this guy or girl? And what do you think? And so you talking to one person could be influencing a lot more than that one person you're talking to.
Well, that's one thing I noticed when I went to like a VFW, I said, did you realize that you have a municipal court in your town? I was like, no. We have that. So, yeah, I agree, it's getting the word out. Letting people know.
And municipal court is important because it is a more efficient structure. Because circuit court, you're dealing with a state office and you have a lot of different layers to that. But municipal court fines are typically, I think, less for the offender, but the local municipality gets to keep a greater percentage of revenue generated by fines than through the circuit courts, because most of that is eaten up by the state. And a local municipality may get $10 on a speeding ticket.
Well, another part of it too is, you know, the circuit courts are busy with very serious offenses,
Yep.
as well as divorces and probate, all these other things that they need to deal with. And municipal court just deals with the minor things.
Traffic.
That's where you go when you get picked up for speeding in Rosendale.
That's true. That's true.
Saying that for a friend.
That's true, though.
Yeah, they do have their own, yeah.
They're probably really busy.
Yeah, I think
They are, I've been there, oh geez.
But yeah, the good thing with municipal court is we're a little bit more approachable to the public. You know, a lot of times municipal courts, their very first interaction with the court. And so they don't understand the whole process. And we have the time to kind of explain things to them and help them through the process a little bit. Especially with the juveniles, we meet one-on-one with the parents and the child to try and prevent future problems, especially with truancy. And definitely to get them back into school and regularly attend. When in circuit court, they just don't have the time to talk one-on-one with the juvenile and say, you know, why aren't you in school? You know, they just come up with an order. And it's nothing against the circuit court, they just don't have the time, you know.
So that's our special election. But in the spring, I suspect that giving the chatter I'm hearing about city council, we may be ending up having a primary. And we have a primary.
We don't know yet, but yes,
We could.
be.
And the reason we would do that is if there's 4 positions open
Mhm.
in each district.
Mhm.
But if there are multiple people running in one district,
Correct.
you have to get it down to 2.
Correct.
Let's hope we have that.
When we had 7 people running for school board a few years ago.
Mhm.
And that
There's
was,
been more.
yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
That's great. There's a lot of signatures. I know Troy can attest to this. For every position, there's lots of signatures. You probably had to do a lot, wouldn't you, for the state?
Yeah, I had 200 for the assembly and 400 for the Senate, but you better have way more than that.
Yeah.
Because they go through them,
disqualifies
what
somebody.
happens with that is you turn them in, and if you don't turn if it's supposed to be a 200 and you turn in 220, the other party goes through those and tries to kick some out.
Mhm.
And if they kick out 26, so you're 199, you're off the ballot.
Yeah.
So you better get way more than you need, because that's sort of the game they play, is they can
Well,
get people
before
off
it
the
reaches
ballot.
to that part with the parties, you're also dealing with the clerks, as myself. When somebody turns that paperwork in, council, I will go through and make sure there's no duplicates. Myself and my deputy clerk will go through it, make sure we have no duplicates. Then you got to make sure and go through, look each individual person to make sure they're an actual resident of the city of Ripon.
Or that district, right? It has to
Yes,
be
and in that
district.
area,
For
correct.
her, it's just within the school district,
Still
but,
district.
but for city council, it's within that.
Yeah.
So you
District.
go through every name and verify their,
Yes, I do.
at the state level, they don't do that. They let the opponents,
But we have a lot less that we have to
yeah,
get
you don't have to
here
have
than
many.
we do.
Right, right.
So that makes it a little bit easier, but
So,
yeah.
okay,
we
the
do.
big question is,
Uh-huh.
when do you do that?
When do I do it?
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as paperwork is turned in.
Okay,
I
so
will go
if
through
if
those.
I don't turn mine in till 4:00 on the day that it's due at 5:00,
Mhm.
you may not get to it by 5:00.
That's
You-
exactly right. That's why
And
I
then
should
if you
get it on
find, if
sooner.
you find somebody not
Exactly.
wrong,
Mhm.
they're done.
Yes, and I have seen some where I have had duplicate, or they signed paperwork for the wrong district. And so then I had to.
So you let
disqualify
them
woman.
correct it?
No, no,
Mhm.
they were disqualified, but they had enough, they went over the
Right.
required amount of signatures, so they were still okay and within the margin to be acceptable.
Or if I turn 25 in
Mhm.
and I didn't have 25, but I still have a couple days to go, I can bring some more
Yes.
in
Yes, correct.
to
Mhm.
make sure I get the 25.
And the sooner you turn it in is always better, because
Right.
then we can work with you to try and make sure everything is correct, and it
Yeah.
gives us a little more of a window. Where you wait to the very end, you get what you get, unfortunately. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to do a quick little dance on is the election finances. Ellen had asked me to cover a little bit about election finances. The city of Ripon as a whole, we don't really have our own laws here in Ripon. We follow the state law, and that's where we go on those. Candidates for local offices file with me. They'll get their paperwork. They don't file. I did have this asked of me for whatever reason. You do not file with the Wisconsin Election Commission. You file with your clerk. If you're for the county office, you're going to go through Lisa
Before your
Freiberg,
school
county
board.
clerk. If you go with the school, you'll go with the school. Yes, correct. There is an option. There is paperwork, lots of paperwork. There's always lots of paperwork. And this is actually on one of the sheets there, and it'll tell you the form I believe that you have to have. The forms you have to have. Just find it.
Oh, yeah, right here.
So there's lots of paperwork always on this stuff. But when you do this, there is an exemption, and a lot of smaller communities will actually use the reporting exemption. If a candidate's committee doesn't spend over $2,500. Did I say that right?
I don't know what the number is, but yeah, if you
Yeah,
don't spend so
if they
much.
don't spend over $2,500 in a calendar year, then they would want to fill that in. For the most part, people are not going to, smaller communities are not going to do it. For the larger offices, they are probably going to be well over that. Something like Troy is doing right now, he doesn't need to. But if he ends up with somebody running against him, you never know. He may have to invest in that a little bit more. But for now, $2,500 is it, and you can go into the exception. Did you have a question?
I do. I was looking at the municipal offices. Are towns the only governmental body that caucuses?
I believe so, but I'm not good on town
Besides-
laws.
Iowa.
Well, we're not in Iowa.
It says, I
Well,
wonder if it
yeah,
says
they,
four.
they,
Maybe it's
they
just-
meet and then they caucus and put people on the ballot.
Yeah, I thought that, but I think that's the only municipal government here that does that.
And one of the things that, with the finance, it's a big, big deal because if you are gonna raise money, you have to report that to the state in
Yeah.
my instance. And you have to have the name, the address, everything, and how much that person gave you. So you can go in the records and find out who gave who, what, and how much. And there's limits on how much you can give for each
And
race.
that's subject to open records, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So if you don't want to know, people to know
because
Well,
that
that
has
you
to
gave me
be-
money, you
Yeah.
probably best not.
So is there a window, well, if you're gonna run for office, then is there a window in which you can start putting out, like campaign signs and things like that?
Yeah,
Once you
so
have a
let's
committee.
switch over to some signage here. We love talking about signs, don't we? Okay, so we all love a good sign. We just came from a presidential where we had signs everywhere, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah,
All
we
right,
did.
so
Year round.
Yeah.
yeah, some of them are, aren't they? The signs, this is all kind of governed. State can have some laws. Mainly, it's coming from the federal side of things for the laws, but also municipalities can actually even diminish that rule if they don't want it to be as large. So what it is, I guess should say what I'm actually talking about is, so the first thing is any sign you want to do, at the very bottom, you have to have the disclaimer. Everybody knows what disclaimer is. Paid-
Authorized and paid for by Joe Blow for
Yes.
Senate.
Yes.
Treasurer, or don't you have to have the name of the person who's the finance
I-
person? Or?
I don't know if you do or not.
Oh, okay.
No, you don't have
You
to have
don't?
that.
No.
No. But you just have to have, it's got to be, they said, readable, legible, and readily accessible on the sign so that somebody can see paid for by the Republican Party or by the Democratic Party or by somebody, Joe Schmo or whatever, like you said.
Well, no, the Democratic Party doesn't have to put it, Republican, only money that the campaign has to do
Paid
that.
for by that.
Third
Mhm.
parties don't have to do
That's
anything.
right.
True.
For advertising either.
Right. But if you notice on ads, on TV, authorized and paid for by whatever, they say that. Or if the candidate says, I approve this ad with their own mouth,
Yes.
then that covers it too.
Mhm.
But people like yard signs. We have a lot of signs.
We do. Well, and so there is some restrictions on sign placement. We have ran across, so in the right of way, everyone knows what right of way is
The
there.
terrace.
Terrace.
Yes, that's exactly right. You're not supposed to put anything in that terrace area
Until you get caught. Oh,
until you get caught.
Or somebody takes-
I didn't say
somebody takes a
that.
sign.
I didn't say that, guys.
Sitting there.
Hey, shoot, you can cut that out.
Please. Then on private property, signs must be at least 15 feet from the pavement edge in urban areas without a sidewalk. So that'd be your country town areas that doesn't have sidewalk. Make sense? Here's something we ran across too since I've been here because I've had to have the police department go out and do some measuring. So at the clerk's office or wherever polls are, the campaign
Yeah.
signs are banned within 100 feet of the entrance to a polling place on election day and during absentee voting hours at a municipal clerk's
And
office.
that includes people who deck out their trucks
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
park to vote.
Yeah.
You can't have big
Can't do
signs in your truck saying vote for
Mhm.
someone.
so I know that we've had, Chief Wallner has had to go out for me before in the past and do some measuring, and fortunately, everybody so far has been at the right distance, but that is important. Private property, signs are allowed on private property with the owner's consent. That's an important part, have to have the owner's consent. One of the things people don't understand sometimes if somebody owns the property, but then they rent it, sometimes the homeowner is offended and doesn't want that sign in front of their rental house. But the person that actually is renting it, technically, it is their home at that point, so they have every right to put it in the yard. So I
I
didn't
didn't
realize
know
that
that.
either. I know, isn't that interesting? I'm like, oh. Okay, signs cannot be moving parts or flashing lights. I didn't know that. I didn't know you'd want to go to that extreme, but you can't do that. The sign must be freestanding, so you can't lean it against a building, or I don't know what else you would lean it against a tree. I don't know what else you
A
would do with
fence.
it.
Bungee
A fence.
cord it to a tree or a light pole.
Yeah, it's got to be freestanding.
Is that in the city or that's not statewide?
No, that is. Oh no, that is actually on the state. Yes, that
Is
is
it?
state. It must be freestanding. Yes, I
There's a
believe
lot
so.
of violation of that.
Well, look at the signs that are on barns and
believe-
stuff like that. I don't
I'm
think.
trying to remember what I read that on. I do believe so. Oh no, you're right. It is local. I did see that on the
Yeah,
city
because I had
ordinances.
one of my
Yes.
signs, a guy put on his
Sorry about that.
empty corn crib by Wapaka.
Some people think that when you talk about signs, you talk about permits. Like locally, we always talk about you need a sign to put your McDonald's sign, or you need a permit. I'm sorry, to put these up there. You don't have to for political signs. It's
Oh.
okay. However, timing. I think this is what you were alluding to. A sign can be erected up to 45 days before the election. Technically, it should not be up any time sooner than 45 days prior to the
So
election.
that would be like after you file papers, right? If the election is
That-
in.
Mhm.
That's not state either.
Oh, yeah, it is.
45 days, that's a month and a half.
Yeah, I saw
I've had
this on.
signs up for 2 months, 3 months.
Don't
That's,
tell me that.
well, I mean, everybody does.
Change.
That's, you know, that the election's in November and there's signs that go up in June and July.
But there might be the primary is in August.
No, this is the general.
Oh,
Yeah, they're saying a sign can be erected up to 45 days before the election. The state law says signs for a primary election can remain until 7 days after the general election. In other cases, signs must be removed within 7 days after the election. However, for the city of Ripon's ordinance states election signs must be removed within 3 days following the election. So that's one where Ripon has superseded a state law and we've taken it down to us.
I don't think anybody enforces that at state level.
I don't think so. Anybody really does on any of them, no. The owner of the property, again, is where the sign is placed, is responsible for the removal. But again, I don't think we really go and we enforce removal of the signs because I've had, as you said, people have had signs up for a long time, unfortunately. There is lots of rules, lots of individual cities or communities can have their own rules as far as signs. I know I did some research, Grand Chute, DeForest, Madison, they all have their own, like Madison, they ban signs in the public right of way, including the terrace between the sidewalk and the street. I mean, each individual community can have their own ruling as far as where they can have the sign and where they can't have the sign. So you really have to kind of check if you're within the city limits or in the town. You want to make sure your signage that you're doing for your elections meets the standards. Okay? Isn't that fun talking about signs?
Really? Sure.
you can always learn something.
Well, it's interesting. Signs are interesting because, so you're driving around your district and you see your signs and you feel really good. And then you see your opponent's sign on some place that, what? Why do they have their sign on their yard? It just like kills you. And, or if you see too many of your opponent's sign, you just sort of feel, oh man, that's not really working out very well. So, I mean, signs are great, and people say signs don't vote, but they do send a message that that person has a lot of support.
Correct. Agreed. Signs are important for the elections, I think. If anything, it helps you to ask questions, and I myself will see somebody or see a sign and then I want to go and research it, find out who they are, what they stand for, what they want to do.
You're deeper than the average person.
Probably.
Well, I do that too.
Yeah.
But I am
Cal has a
asking
question.
Hi.
What kind of sign is promoting the district? As in, tell your senator to do, is that a political sign?
It's freedom of speech.
So that can be up there, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not an election.
Yeah, I don't think that's subject to campaign finance laws
No, it's not.
because it's you're advocating.
You're not for or against that senator or for or against that issue
Mhm.
or representative. or whatever.
I'm done. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No,
we keep
no,
going.
this is
It's like,
great.
yeah, I'm
I
done.
thought we were going to be done in an hour.
Yeah, I
This
think
is-
we can wrap it up. Does anybody have any
I just
questions?
have a question. I know Luther, you were pretty much statewide election, so you probably have a lot more with this. But how do you find the best way to reach your voters in a multi-jurisdiction area like that? You know, you always get the mailers in the post office, or from the post office and stuff, you see the signs. Well, what did you find is the best way to reach the voters?
what, I won't tell you what I found, but I'll tell you what is the Bible for elections, is doing doors.
Oh, canvassing? Is that what they call it?
They do it called doors,
Oh, doors.
going and knocking on doors, leaving lit, shaking hands. That is the thing that really, really works.
But do you get like you were a partisan office, so do you just get the list of Republicans and go to those doors?
Honestly, my colleagues hated me because I never really did doors because I had enough name recognition that I really didn't need it. In fact, a number of elections, nobody ever ran against me. So
But you can get you can get lists from clerks of people who vote. And it doesn't go, and that's pretty much you don't know how they voted.
the parties have walk lists. And toward the end, I did that one time. It's really interesting because they give you this walk list on your phone, and they can tell if you went to that house or not. So they're watching you. It's like, oh, did you really? You said you did doors? Well, we see you really didn't. You sat down
That's
at Joe's
convenient.
bar this afternoon. So they give you
I'm glad.
people that you should go to, and they can tell. The people who are putting the money in your campaign want to know that you're working. But, I think you got to do a little radio, you got to do some newspaper, and then doors. That's for stuff like you're running. That's what you want. Because you can't really, when you're running for judge, you really can't say much, right? You can't say, oh, I'm going to throw this guy in jail or whatever. So most of it is name recognition and your reputation, and that's what they'll vote for. And so if you do radio ads, some stuff in the newspaper, and you really don't have to do that stuff till the week before the election, because people have short memories.
And then you talked about how when you have a opponent, they go negative. How do you react to that?
Well, there's two schools of thought, depending on what it is. Sometimes you just ignore it because the more you talk about it, a lot of people miss it the first time, so they don't hear about it. But then if you bring it up and talk about it, well, now it's getting in more press and more daylight. So it all depends on what they go negative on, or you go negative back on them. And that's you see that. That's why people get so upset with the elections, because nobody ever does ads on, I'm a good guy, you should vote for me. It's always, why this guy's a skunk and you shouldn't vote for them. And then they say you're a weasel and they shouldn't vote for you. And so at the end of the day, it's like, oh, curse them all because they're all worthless. But even, and the sad part of it is 90% of what they're saying negative is all lies anyway. But there's a thin thread of truth in all that stuff. There has to be that.
Agreed.
Okay. Remember, we talked about a special election on November 4th.
Yeah.
One office, one candidate. And for more information, as we head into our nonpartisan spring elections, you can always visit the League of Women Voters Facebook page, because we'll have information on there, and you'll also have information on the city calendar.
I will. We will have a lot of information coming out, and we'll be on the city website,
And
Facebook,
the school-
things like that.
And the school board.
The school district.
The school
will have it.
district too.
Yeah.
And Luther's retired, so.
Let me leave you with one saying. Maybe this is the last word, but maybe not with Ellen.
No, stop it.
When I ran and got elected for the assembly years and years ago, my sister needle pointed something and framed it for me in a head in my office. And it's just a little saying. It says, what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. And I looked at that a lot, and it's like, okay, what I think is right, a lot of people don't like, or what a lot of people like maybe isn't right. And so you just got to be true to yourself when you're running in your office. So I just wanted to leave you with that.
Okay,
little
well,
saying.
thank you, and thank you. Thank our audience.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.